this video focuses on functions, but specifically x-intercepts, y-intercepts, gradients, and how to find them, as well as how to find the equation of a straight line graph. So there's different types of graphs, but the first one we're talking about now is a straight line graph, and it's given by the equation y is equal to mx plus c. The m value is something called our gradient, and the c value is the y-intercept. Now we'll get to that in a minute. So let's begin. The first note we have over here is something about an x-intercept. An x-intercept is basically where the graph touches the x-axis. So here's our x-axis over here. It's the horizontal line. Where do you see the graph touching that? Where does the graph touch the x-axis? So it's right over here on that point. So that is the x-intercept. Now, how do you get the x-intercept in terms of the coordinates? So the x-intercept has a coordinate. Now we need to find that. So looking at our graph, we also make a note that the y value is always 0 for the x-intercept. So if you want the x-intercept, so in this case, the x-intercept, it's a coordinate, an x and y value. Now looking at the graph, and knowing that the x-intercept will always have a y value of 0, can I not just put a 0 for the y value? And then all I need is the x value. And here's the graph touching the x-axis at 2. So this is my x-intercept, 2 and 0. Alright, so that's how you get the x-intercept from a graph. So you can get it if they give you a picture. You can figure out the x-intercept by looking at that picture, understanding the y value is 0, and just seeing where it touches on the x-axis. Next, we can also get it from an equation, understanding also that y value is always 0. So to find the x-intercept, we remember this. For x-intercept, let y equal to 0. So where y is, I'm going to put a 0, and I'll put the rest of the equation as normal. I'm then going to solve for x. You move your 3 across, equals to 2x. Divide both sides by 2, and x is equal to 3 over 2. Now, is that my x-intercept? I need a coordinate. My x-intercept is an x and a y value. The y value we know is 0, and the x value is the thing we calculated from the equation. Next, the y-intercept. Similarly to the x-intercept, it's where the graph touches the y-axis. And for this one, the x value is always 0. So for the x-axis, the y value is always 0. And for the y-axis, the x value is always 0. So just remember that. Now, from this graph, why don't you try to write the y-intercept from the picture. So we'll need a coordinate, the y-intercept. So we need a coordinate, we need an x and a y value. But for the y-intercept, the x value is always 0, so put a 0 here. Now, looking at this graph, it touches the y-axis, the vertical axis, at this point. And what is this? -3. So my y is -3. So my x-axis for that same graph was 2, and the y-intercept for the same graph is -3. Sorry, 2 and 0, and 0 and -3. From the equation now, similar to what we've done before, for y-intercept, let x equals to 0. So before we said x-intercept let y equals to 0. Now I say y-intercept let x equals to 0. By heart these lines. By heart this information. It's going to go till grade 12. Don't forget it. So I'm going to write my entire equation. But where I see that x, I'm going to put a 0. And the rest of the equation is normal. And then solve. 2 times 0 is 0. Minus 3. So y is equal to negative 3. But is that my y-intercept? No, I need a coordinate. Y-intercept is a coordinate. An x value and a y value. But for y-intercept, the x value is 0. And in this case, we found our y value as negative 3. We then have something called a gradient, which basically talks about how steep a line or slope is. If you think about walking uphill, if the hill is not so steep, where you can run up it without much of a problem, we'd say it's got a low gradient, or it's a gentle gradient. All right, but if it was extremely high, like you're climbing a mountain, we say that it's got a steep gradient. All right, or a high gradient. So gradient can be calculated for a straight line graph using the formula you see on screen: y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Now what is all of this? What does that mean? Let's look at our first example. I have 2 points. I have this point over here that has been marked for me, and this point has been marked for me. How do we read graphs? Is it from left to right or right to left? So we read from left to right. When you look from left to right, which point comes first? The negative 3, negative 2. So this point comes first, and this point comes second. Okay, and these are x and y coordinates, right? So wouldn't the x of my first point be x1 and the y of my first point be y1? The x of my second point be y2 and the y of my second point be y2. Okay, alright, we found our x1, y1, x2, y2. Now let's try finding the gradient. The gradient is equal to, so m is the symbol we use for gradient, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 equals to, I'm just gonna draw the same fraction and just put those minus signs in. Now for each one of these variables, I'm just gonna put a bracket. All right, so what is my y2 value? Have a look and think about it. It's gonna be 3. If you want, try and fill that in. What is my y1 value now? So remember, this is my y1, so my y1 is negative 2. What is my x2? Well, that's going to be 2, and my x1 is negative 3. I can then put that whole thing on the calculator, which should give me 5 over 5, which is going to give me 1. So my gradient here is 1. Alright, so that's done. So my gradient there is 1, which is about a 45-degree incline, which is like an average incline. Alright, so that's what we're gonna go for there. Let's try this one. Pause the video, try and get the gradient. Point 1 from left to right, point 2, x1, y1, x2, y2. M is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. y2 in this case is going to be 1 minus y1 of 2, negative 3 minus negative 5. I hope you tried it, because you should see mistakes at this point, which helps you to learn, which is extremely important for the learning process. Now we're gonna go ahead and simplify, so this becomes minus 1 over 2. So your gradient here is negative half. Notice that when the graph is increasing, the gradient is positive, but when the graph is decreasing, the gradient is negative. Pause the video and try this one. So point 1 from left to right, point 2. So x1, y1, x2, y2. M is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 equals to y2 is 3 minus negative 1 because y1 is negative 1 over x2 is 3 minus x1 is negative 1. So there we go, which is going to be 4 over 4, which is going to be 1 again. Alright, so that's going to be 1. Pause the video and try this one. Interestingly, I never give you coordinates here. I'm testing you. Aren't these your x and y intercepts? So what's the coordinate for your x-intercept? You've done it a bit ago. This is going to be negative 1 and 0. And this is going to be 0 and negative 2. So check if you got those right. Reading from left to right, this is point number 1, this is point number 2. So this is my x1, y1 and x2, y2. Gradient is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. My y2 value is negative 2 minus 0 over x2 is 0 minus 1. So that's going to give me negative 2 over positive 1, which is just negative 2. And that's my gradient for that graph. Alright, so I found all my gradients. Alright, now the last thing we're going to do is looking at how to determine the equation of a straight line or a linear graph. Remember we said y is equal to mx plus c, so all we're doing is we need to find two things. We need to find this and we need to find this. The easiest way to do it is to find this first and find this second. Now m we said is our gradient, so all we got to do is find the gradient first. We just did 4 examples, so pause the video and try that. So here's the first question, second question, x1, y1, x2, y2. M is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. y2 is going to be 3 minus 2 over 2 minus 3, which is going to be 5 over 5, which is going to give me 1. That's the first step. Step 2 is write my equation down, mx plus c, and sub this value for m. So y is equal to 1x plus c. Step 3, choose a coordinate. All right, choose a coordinate. So let's suppose you chose this one. Write it down, negative 3, negative 2, and bring your equation down. So y is equal to x plus c. So the 1 is invisible. Use that coordinate and sub it into your equation. So this is x, this is y. So that's going to go there and that's going to go there. So negative 2 is equal to negative 3 plus c. And solve for c. This is the fourth part. So in this case, you're going to move your 3 across. So negative 2 plus 3 is equal to c. So c is equal to 1. And the last step for this is going to be filling in the m and c. So you remember y is equal to mx plus c. So now we found m was 1. So 1x, and c was also 1. So 1x plus 1. And that's my equation. So recap: gradient, substitute gradient into equation, choose a coordinate and substitute it for x and y, use that to solve for c, and then put it into your final equation and you're done. So we needed m and c and we found them. So m and we found c. Take that down, pause the video, try this. Now coordinate 1, coordinate 2, x1, y1, x2, y2. Oh, and if you are wondering, does it matter which coordinate you choose at uh step 3? It says choose coordinate. No, it doesn't. Just choose whichever one you want. So now we're gonna begin. M is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Y2 is gonna be 1 minus 2 over minus 3 minus 5. 1 minus 2 over minus 3 minus 5. So that's going to give me negative 1 over 2. Is this the same question from earlier? Alright, yeah, those are the same graphs from earlier. But anyway, I'm then going to go into y is equal to mx plus c, which is going to become y is equal to negative 1 over 2x plus c. I'm going to choose a coordinate. So for this one, let's choose this. So I'm going to put negative 3 and 1. So negative 3 is my x value and 1 is my y value. So this is going to go there and that's going to go there. So 1 is equal to negative 1 over 2 into negative 3 plus c. So 1 is equal to 3 over 2 plus c. C is equal to 1 minus 3 over 2. So c is equal to 1 minus 3 over 2 is equal to minus 1 over 2. Now I'll write my original equation, mx plus c. So y is equal to minus a half x minus a half. Is that correct? So 2, 1, 0. Yeah, that's fine. And that's my equation. Alright. So that's gonna be the end of our straight line for now, and we'll get back into it later.